Hey, good morning, guys. It's great to see all y'all this morning. It's been fun chatting with you. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday gathering, free church, no tithe required. It's great to have all you guys from all corners of the earth. All right. Yeah, Stacia, I see your request there. I'm going to note that in my notes. You guys feel free as you're getting started here to put any topics you're interested in discussing in the chat. Or if you just want to talk about our lives in the chat all morning, I'm fine with that. Just getting together is cool. Ryan Davis, you have a question on presumptuous sin. I'll put that in my notes for the topics. Okay. All right. Well, just to call a few guys' names out, say good morning, Pam Crane, Denise Hamilton. Good to have you guys. MK Ryan jumped in and gave us a topic and then left, but it's a good topic, so I put that on the list. Good morning, Terry Barnes, the Red Raven. Keith Buckley, good morning to you. Linda Connor, of course. Sherry Fennell, good to have you. Stacia Logue. Marnie, 73 from Wales. That's so cool that you could join us. KK Moon, good morning. Oh, you also are from Wales, so that's pretty amazing. All right. I'm not marketing in Wales, so I don't know. I'm just happy to have you guys. All right. Denise Hamilton, if I didn't say your name. And I saw Rick Bowser jump in. Good morning, sir. Let's see. SGRA 91, good morning to you. Thank you for joining. I don't remember seeing your name before, but it's great to have you. Francisco Horta, good morning to you. Kelsey, as always, good morning. Kuza, Lisa, it's good to see all you guys. Now there's getting to be too many. Jenny Howell, good morning to you. And Gay Beasley, it's good to have you. Ed Mack, I think Puckwidgey, and you guys are about the last. Topic from Tanya. Good morning, Tanya. You ask, after the throne judgment, why do we need a new heaven and a new earth? Won't we be going to heaven? Yeah, I'll answer that. As far as I understand it, I will answer that question for sure. Yeah, I actually thought that I'd probably get a lot of questions this morning on the Great White Throne video that I put out. It was a firebrand. I just stuck it out there. Actually, I've gotten some really great response, a lot of really great responses from people on that video. Majority, overwhelmingly, was very positive. So I thank you guys for that. You know, of course, there's a few that, you know, it's a problem for a lot of people who I think are kind of locked into a position. You know, whenever it rubs up against people's really firmly held beliefs, whether that's futurism or whether that's preterism, full preterism, or whether it's whatever, some people still just get really just lit up. And so I had a few pretty negative people go to bat with me, so that was fun. Okay. Well, SGRA, I'm glad you got to join us just for a minute. And if you have to go, that's fine. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to cover, and then when you come back, you could, you know, obviously rewatch that part, then please put it in the chat before you leave. That'd be great. Kuza, you ask if there's any legal way to explore the North and South Pole. Is that a topic? It could be a topic. All right. Let's see. So Marnie, you do have a question. Could I talk about the difference between reincarnation and resurrection? You've been saved from the New Age movement. Ah, yes. Interesting. I will, Marnie. I'll put that on the list. Okay. Francisco Horta, you ask about Revelation 9:3, and you're asking about the locusts and are they demons? Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good question. And then Deborah Hicks, you say you enjoyed my study on the Great White Throne Judgment. What is my take on the rest of the dead living after the Millennial Kingdom? Is that the Great White Throne Judgment? Deborah Hicks, that's a good question. So let me put that on here. Now we've got a few questions on kind of Revelation topics. Hang on one second. I gotta do something real quick. All right. Puckwidgie, you said you didn't see anything controversial about the Great White Throne video. It was spot on and biblical. Well, that was my intent, was to show the correlation between some of those writings, and the majority of those writings are very old. Like some of the oldest ones, I didn't even go into. For instance, I didn't go over any reformers, with the exception of the Westminster Confession. That's like the most modern thing that I even touched on. But those were just to show that throughout history, right, the Christian community at large, the church, had preserved the ideas of the Great White Throne Judgment in the creeds. That's significant. It's huge. So yeah, I think that Puckwidgie, to your point, I think I did a good job of using texts that were very authoritative. With the exception, as one of my commenters said, the second apocalypse of John, or the apocryphal book of Revelation, as it's sometimes called, that's a lesser known text, and it's not as, evidenced as far as number of manuscripts, that kind of thing. But it, of course, echoed everything we saw in the other writings. I told that person on the comments, I said, I could have removed that source completely out of the video and almost had the exact same video. I mean, the material there was the same as the material in all the other sources, perhaps with a little more detail added. But yeah, I don't think that was actually that significant of a piece of the material. So anyway. All right. B. Nichols, did I see you jump on? All right. So there. Got a good number of topics now, so we're probably going to have to slow down on the topics. Let's see what else has been mentioned. SGRA, you ask about the location of biblical Israel and Judea. Is something you wonder about. SGRA, I'll put that on the list and I'll talk about it, because I don't remember seeing you before, so I try to prioritize new people and at least try to speak to the topics you bring. So I'll do that, SGRA, and you can always watch it back later. All right. Grace Bear Annie, good to see you. All right. Jenny Howell, you and Marnie talking about you used to be in New Age and you came out, and Stephen Bankars has been a large part of your journey, it sounds like. I've seen some really good stuff about that guy. So I've seen his videos. Yeah, he seems like a really good dude and has come a long way. So yeah, he's pretty cool. It's great that he speaks up so boldly about the problems with the New Age, and who Christ is. He's really cool. All right. Deborah Hicks, you ask about the Mandela effect. Yeah, I don't know if I'll do that topic today. We've got a lot now. I'll put it on here. And we'll see where we get today. If I can do it, I'm having trouble. Oh well. Put it this way. Yeah, all right. Yeah, Linda Connor, you commented that you completely enjoyed the video on the Great White Throne and that you knew your works mattered and everyone in the church said they didn't. Yeah, so way before I did this Great White Throne judgment video, I have always felt like works were more important than the church let on. Not that they were required necessarily for salvation. It's not like you earn your salvation, but just as the book of James says, your faith is dead without works. There's no real faith if you're not willing to do good works, if you're not willing to be righteous. So to me, that's the problem with the way the church teaches, is they kind of get you a get out of jail free card. Like if you're saved, then your works don't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. It's like Paul was talking about. Should we sin more that grace abound? And he's like, essentially, he says in his own vernacular, hell no, we shouldn't. And so, I think the church understates the importance of good works. It's funny, like, I don't endorse the Methodist denomination, but I have been in touch and contact with some Methodists, and I've noticed that the Methodists tend to do more good works than most Protestants. So it's just really interesting to me that that's more of a part of their practice of their religion than it is, say, for Southern Baptists, which is what I come from. But they really emphasize and focus on the doing of good works. So I just think that that's interesting, I guess, is all I'm saying. But I agree with you, Linda Connor, in the sense that that's really our number one priority after we become Christians, is to do good things for other people and for God, specifically to bring his kingdom to earth, so to speak, as the Lord's Prayer says. We want it to be on earth as it is in heaven, where angels obey the voice of God, where justice is done, where God looks out for the best interest of all his subjects. And so we want to replicate that on earth just the way that Christ talked about it. We want to replicate that by doing good to people, being just, being righteous. And so if we're not doing that, it really means we don't believe the things that we're talking about. It just means we don't believe it. And if you don't believe it, then you're in a really bad position with God, right? So just thought I'd rant for 1 second there. But I agree with you, Linda. We don't emphasize some of the disciplines of being a Christian that we should have in the Christian body. Yes, Raven. Justice, please. I know. See, that is when it will be more like heaven than anything else, is justice. And of course, in that Great White Throne video that I did, that's the whole point of the Great White Throne judgment, is in the end, everyone receives justice. Every single entity under God receives justice. So, yeah. Oh, RLB, you said the judgment video was so good and you'll watch it a few times likely. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just hope it spurs on understanding and research. That's all. Another thing that some people complained about was they were like, they were begging me essentially for for conclusions. Like, tell us then everything, tell us what you think about this and this and this and this. And I'm like, well, I can only do so much at a time, I was saying to them, I'm presenting the information because I think it's significant for you, for all of us. And it's up to you to come to your conclusions. And these guys weren't getting it. And I was just like, are you kidding me right now? Just chill out. Yeah, Linda, research on our own. That's what I want all of us to be able to do. So, the one video I put out where I don't give you all the hard conclusions and decisions in the end with the information, I essentially left it to the viewer with a little bit. I gave a little commentary at the end. But yeah, I just, man, some people, they're like, if you don't give me the answer, I'm mad. I don't know what to do with that, really. Man. All right. Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. All right. Well, let's go ahead and I'll start with some announcements then, get us going here. In general, I want everyone to know, whether you're new or you're pro here and you've been around a while, everybody is welcome to the live stream, and you're welcome to post in the chat. I just ask that you stay civil with one another. If I see spam, like lots of posts where someone's trying to put like an article or something in their own ideas all through the chat, I will stop that. Or if it's belligerent and ugly, I will stop that. But otherwise, we're going to have a good time here. We're going to discuss these topics. I'm going to do my best to bring what I know to the table, and then you guys are welcome to do that same thing in the chat. And again, the best thing you can do in the chat is post evidence, okay? Not just necessarily what you think, but if you know where that is, a reference someone else can look up, that's when we become powerful here. So I encourage that. Now, just so you're aware of who I am and what I have done, let's see here. I will share on the screen briefly so you're aware. This is my website, and it's on your screen at the top left, bible-scribe.com. I'm on many platforms, YouTube, Facebook. I have a page there for Bible Scribe, and also a prayer group there. Now, I want to mention the prayer group briefly because this week, actually at the end of last week, I believe, I went through and I took out from the prayer group all inactive people. So if people in the prayer group aren't liking or commenting on prayer requests, that's the only way I can know that people are praying. So if they're not liking or commenting on prayer requests, then after a while, I will remove people. I don't want people that are just watching. I want people that are actively praying and engaging. And so that is a very tight group. It's at this point very small, somewhat small. But we are a group of people that love to pray for each other. And so that's exactly what we do. In just a minute, we're going to pray here, and I'll ask for prayer requests. And when I get those, I take them straight to that group. I even had that group praying for me one day this week, and we had an answer to prayer very quickly. So I was really just ecstatic about that. But if you're interested in joining the prayer group, you can join. Just go and request membership on the group, and I have to approve that, but I will let you in. And if anyone has been removed from the group that you still want to be in there, and you're like, I didn't know I had to like something or comment on something, well, I can put you back in the group. Just go back and request, and I will get you back in. But after a time of inactivity, I'll keep removing people that are not active there. On the Rumble side, I have God's Battalions. You're asking about how can you join the group without Facebook? Well, it's going to be tough. I don't have that yet. So God's Battalions, if you want, you can go to my website and my contact page, like I'm clicking on right here. There's a link at the top right. It just has my email, which is biblescribe@proton.me. If you want to email me and say, hey, I'd like to be notified of prayer requests, then I will do that. I will try to also keep a list that I can notify of prayer requests if that's what you'd like. But other than Facebook, that's where we're primarily meeting right now. All right. So with that, yeah, I'm on many platforms. I also push a podcast to Spotify. So there's podcasts pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. You can find me. It's a little delayed because it takes me some time to get the podcast made and out, but I usually put these live streams on there. On Rumble, obviously, I'm streaming right now. And then Truth Social and X and Telegram, I also have accounts on all those, and I am somewhat active on them. So if you want to get in touch with me there, you can do that. Then also, as you see on the website, there's this Bible app. This Bible app you're going to see me use during this live stream, and it is pretty much my primary source of discovery and research on both the Bible and all the ancient texts that are listed on this screen. There's a lot of them. So I won't go into every one, but we have apocryphal works on this tool. We have early Jewish works, late Jewish, and early Christian writings. So you can search across all of them. If you check all the boxes and you search, it goes across all these writings at once. That's part of what gives me such a boon to some of my research. I can find things really quick. That tool is available right now. It's still in a beta period where I'm working on this tool, but you can sign up for it. So if you go to my website and you click the app link at the top or the big tile in the middle, it says Bible app, then you will be able to register for that. And I will include you right now in our beta period, and you'll get access to all of those books. So anyway, that's there. It's available. There's getting to be so much to announce now. This is there's too much to announce. The other thing I'd like to mention is SciCry. If you notice this other big tile, it says SciCry on the website. That takes you to a page that talks about my other channel. It's called SciCry. And I started this actually a while back. It's more of a conspiratorial nature of videos than, of course, what I do on Bible Scribe. Bible Scribe is Bible focused. These videos on SciCry are very conspiratorial or informational, focused about politics, our world, hidden messages in programming and TV and movies, that kind of thing. I do a lot of that. Project Looking Glass was a big video I did to discover and show all the different whistleblowers on that project. So this is a really interesting, I think, thing. And I wanted you to know I did just release a brand new video last night called Despicable You. It was a fun video to make. It's a pretty short one, but that one's out there. And I just actually reinstated, kind of started reusing my SciCry channel on YouTube. So I'm going to do my best to try to post back to YouTube for these videos now on the SciCry channel and see if YouTube will accept them. You know, a lot's changed on YouTube over the last couple years. There may be a chance they will accept more. And they took the video I did last night, although it is, of course, copyright protected, infringed, or whatever. So I cannot monetize. I don't have anything monetized on the SciCry channel. But it also partially blocked my video in like 50 different countries in the world. That's the problem with YouTube. Okay, so this is, of course, SciCry is mirrored to other platforms. It's on BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey. It also has a channel on Telegram. I think I'd like to mention this channel on Telegram. The SciCry channel on Telegram, I do post news too. It's kind of my go-to, like when I am going through news online, I find something very significant, I will post it to that SciCry Telegram channel. So if you are interested in following that and just getting a little news each day, I do not overpost. You know, there's some channels out there, they post like hundreds and hundreds of things a day. I do not do that. I only post about, I don't know, between 5 and 10 posts a day of really significant news topics. So I would say that if you are just had overload, you're tired of these channels that just post all the time, and it's all old stuff, it's the same old stuff over and over again. If you're interested, then that SciCry channel on Telegram is good because I only post a few things a day that are really significant and are current in the news. I try to keep it very focused on that. And I think some people who are on that channel really appreciate that. It's just not overwhelming like some of the other stuff out there. So anyway, that's enough about that. SciCry is also on TruthNX if you need to find it. It's going to be everywhere. If I can get that YouTube channel kicked back up again, then it's just going to go everywhere. So anyway, let's see, what's next on the list? What have I been working on? You know, I've been working mostly on the Great White Throne Judgment video. And so I'm glad that came out. I'm glad we got it done. It was a lot, and the video is long. It was longer than I wanted it to be, but I didn't know any way around that. Other than that, I have a few things I have been working on. Let me pull that up so I can at least tell you about it. So I have another occult Nazi video coming out, and it will be out pretty soon, maybe within a week or two, I think. that video is going to be out about the propaganda during the war, and it's a different tack than most people take with this. It's not about Nazi propaganda. It's about the propaganda that was used to get our sons and daughters to be a part of a war fought across an ocean. It's the propaganda that was used against the American people to convince us how evil the German people were and how we needed to go and destroy them. And it'll be a little bit about what our soldiers did over there, because they were propagandized into thinking that Nazis were pure evil and that Germans were pure evil. And so they did some actually pretty horrific things overseas that, you know, if you have a relative in the war, they may not talk about that much. But there were some really evil things that were done even by American soldiers. And then the interesting thing about that, and I'm just plugging it because it's cool to me, it's amazing. There is a movie or two that was made in the United States after the war that was also propaganda to convince the American people that what they did in the war was just and righteous. And I'll show you that too. It's going to be pretty cool. I think it's a little different than most people imagine when they think about propaganda in the wars. So anyway. All right. What else? Anything else? Oh, I do have another video coming out on Bible Scribe very soon. It's probably almost, as far as the research is almost done on it. It's the eschatology of the early church fathers. I keep having people come to me and say about, when I talk about the early church fathers, they say, well, the early church fathers didn't agree on anything. They didn't agree on anything. Well, I'm going to show you in this video, the eschatology of the early church fathers. I'm going to show you how they agreed on almost everything. And I'm going to detail it and compare it. Maybe have a chart or something where it shows each church father, and they're going to tick the boxes of all the things they believed in. It's going to be the same across the board. And I'm going to prove to people, specifically the preterists, the full preterists, I'm going to prove to you that the early church fathers were actually very cohesive in what they believed. If you read them, the problem is almost every person that tries to argue this with me, they haven't read the early church fathers. They may have read one or parts of some, and then they tell me they're not cohesive. Well, that's not true, and I'm going to prove it. The other video I do have coming out, and it will be on the Cry channel, is going to be a video about Katy Perry. I found out some amazing things about Katy Perry this past week. Probably, again, something you won't expect. But that video will come out on the Cry channel. I may be able to release it on the Bible Scribe channel as well. I'll see. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I'll see how that works out. All right. I think that's it on announcements. Guys, let's say a quick prayer before we get started, and then we'll try to get to these topics, okay? Sorry for taking so long today. It's been a long intro. So if you would, please, in the comments, put prayer requests. I see that one has been mentioned and is being prayed over already. Linda Connor, you're praying for Mr. Hicks. What is the request? Well, I'm going to take your prayer down as my note on the request, and then maybe I can come back and find that. Yes. All right. All right, so I'm going to bow and pray. You're free while I'm praying even to put your requests in the chat, but feel free to do that, and let's pray together. God, I thank you so much today for the people that are on the chat, on the live stream with me, and thank you for knitting our hearts together and our minds as we study together. I give you the praise and the honor and the glory for everything you're doing. I praise you for each and every person that's here with us today, and each person that will listen through the week, Lord. Thank you so much for just bringing people together. Thank you that I can be an instrument in this regard. Help me to do that to the best of my ability and be humble before you, and just follow the information where it leads, Lord. But I give you the glory for that. I do pray for your guidance, that we will not get off track and that we will come to better understanding of the truth. And I bow humbly before you, and I praise your name. It's in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, that I pray all these things. Amen. All right. Almost cried there for a second. I don't know why I get so emotional. Jenny Howell, you say, oh my, one time I kneeled for Katy Perry. I think she belongs to the Lord, needs to come back. It would be such a great testimony for our Lord's glory since she's such an influencer. Oh my gosh, Jenny Howell, you be careful there. You're going to need to watch this video. I may blow your mind with this video. You may be really excited about this video when I bring it out. There's something that has happened to Katy Perry. I'll just leave it at that. But I think you'll want to watch this when it comes out. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. It's very interesting. Really interesting. Yeah. I was blown away. I mean, I knew a lot of things about Katy Perry, but not this. Okay. Anyway. All right. Let's get started. Let's look at our topics. Let's see if I can get those up. There we go. That's my prayer request. Here's the list of topics. It's quite robust. So let's see. I've got a bunch that are... I've got a couple conspiratorial topics. And I've got some prophecy topics. So should we go conspiratorial first or should we go biblical first? I want to do SGRA 91's first. She was brand new. If I'm interpreting SGRA as a she correctly, I'm not sure. For some reason, it sounds like a girl. But I'm going to do that topic first: location of biblical Israel and Judea. And then we've got North and South Pole, Mandela effect, Space Force. Those are the conspiratorial topics. And then when it comes to Ryan Davis, you're kind of new and you asked about presumptuous sin. I want to do that one as one of the first ones as well. Then maybe we'll just go straight into conspiratorial land, and then we can go into prophecy land. Does that sound good? I'm really happy that there's some conspiratorial stuff because I love that stuff too. And I actually kind of started doing these live streams because I was hoping more people would ask about those kinds of things too. So there's absolutely no problem with me going into some of that stuff and talking through it, at least giving you my thoughts. Jenny Howell, please don't watch all of my videos. Oh my gosh. Please don't. Just, find the ones that look like, oh, I need to watch that. Yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, I've probably binge watched some channels before too, but as long as they're valuable for you, I am happy about that. I want the value to be there. That was one of the things when I started my channels. I wanted there to be value. Number one, that you could come back to, and number two, you could share with people. I didn't want the videos to be something that was just another person telling you their opinions and throwing stuff out that didn't have any basis. That's why I use evidence, I use writings, I try to give facts. But anyway, yeah, I'm really happy that people get the value they do in the videos. So, all right, let's move forward and go to the first topic: location of biblical Israel and Judea. Where is my eyes are so bad. There we go. Location of biblical Israel and Judea. And SGRA 91 asked about this. Thank you for that. I would just say, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because here's my opinions on the matter. I've studied a ton of writings from the time period of Christ, from before, ancient writings that are thousands of years before Christ. I've studied stuff after Christ, of course. I've read a lot of books, probably more than many people. I don't know about most, but more than many people. To me, the issue with trying to figure out if biblical Israel or Judea was not in Palestine, I think that's the real question here. That's what a lot of people talk about when they come to and ask these questions. It's not necessarily about, it's really, the question should be, do you think that the biblical Israel and Judah were in Palestine, or do you think they were somewhere else like America? That's usually what the question is, right? I will just say that because of the writings I've read and the books I've read, and for instance, even the cartography I've studied, the maps from ancient times, all of that evidence points to Israel and Jerusalem being in Palestine exactly where it is today. All of that evidence. I can pull up a map if we wanted to. I don't think I'm going to take the time to do it. But there's tons of ancient maps that you can find. Some of these maps, especially from around the time of Christ, they're reconstructed from texts. Okay, so someone wrote about the locations, and then the maps you see, for instance, the map of, I think, Erasmus, some of those ancient maps that are said to be from like Jesus' time or 300 BC, or 600 BC, I think there's one that's that old. Those maps weren't actually drawn. They were said in text, and then somebody converted that to what it seemed like it was talking about on a map. And so they would take things that were mentioned in the text, certain places they knew, and they would make a map and then apply what was said in that text to a map. So the maps themselves weren't made by Ptolemy or Eratosthenes or any of these guys. They were actually written in text. But that being said, to your question, SGRA 91, there is overwhelming evidence that Israel and Judah, or Judea rather, were the locations that they are today, as they are known. That Jerusalem today is the same Jerusalem of eons ago. And that's actually even provable just by the geography of Jerusalem, because the Bible talks all about Jerusalem, and this valley, the valley of Gehenna, is nearby, and Jezreel is nearby, and the Kidron Valley, and all this. It all points to that is the location. There's no conspiracy there, okay? So I want, to me, there's no evidence to support that America was Israel in any way whatsoever. Nothing historically, nothing literary. So I just leave that topic to the conspiratorialists, and I don't think it's valid. So I'll just leave that there. That's the best I can do with it. I mean, short of just showing you all of that stuff, which I could. But I think most people that have this question know about all that stuff, and they ignore it in light of an interesting theory. Okay, so anyway. B. Nichols, but you want it to be true. Yeah, I know. It's what can I say? All right, so that I think we'll sew that one up. We'll move next. But I see Flat Bob, you're saying a bunch of stuff, and you say you're sorry you're not trying to spam. I don't see you spamming. Let's see, what are you asking about, Flat Bob? Anything specific? Oh, you ask about for next week. Okay, yeah, Flat Bob, I'll put it in my notes and try to remember for next week. Sometimes I don't do a good job of remembering topics from week to week, but I do have it now in my notes. So I will do my best with that. Thank you, sir. All right. All right, let's go on to the next topic then. Well, if I can find it all. Okay. Ryan Davis, you asked, my thoughts on presumptuous sin. Let's do that. Take those slides down. I don't need that. Presumptuous sin. Okay. So, let's see here. I'll be honest, Ryan Davis. The phrase presumptuous sin hasn't crossed my screen very often, so I'm just going to go and look it up real quick, if that's all right. So let's do that. Let me share the screen and I'll bring it up for you guys. So let's just search presumptuous sin. What are presumptuous sins on gotquestions.org? So let's just read about it real quick. Presumptuous sins. Some form of the word presumptuous appears 8 times in the King James Version. Okay. It indicates intentionality and audacity and rebellion. Presumptuous sin can be committed by a single person, multiple people, or the entire nation of Israel. Okay, I get you. So it's almost like premeditated sin is what it sounds kind of like. Presumptuous sin. The phrase is only found once in the KJV. Most older translations use the word presumptuous, while newer translations use deliberate, willful, arrogant, etc. Okay. And it seems to be in Psalm 19:12. So let's go to Psalm 19:12 real briefly here. Psalm 19:12. Okay. Zoom that in a little bit. Who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou me from secret faults. So secret faults would be, I guess, either things you keep secret that you do in the dark and not in front of people, or things that you do accidentally, perhaps. I'm actually going to check the Hebrew on that very quick. Secret faults. Ministaraut. To hide or conceal, hide oneself. Yeah, it seems to be like hidden secret sin. Okay, I just want to make sure that's exactly what it's meaning here. So in verse 12, he says, cleanse me from my secret sins. And in 13, he says, keep back also thy servant from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then shall I be upright, and I shall be innocent from the great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Oh, I love that verse. Oh my gosh. I need to read this verse more often. All right, so in Psalm 19:13, this word presumptuous, mizadim, or mitzadim, is interesting. I want to just look it up, make sure I fully understand it. Insolent or presumptuous in Strong's. So in the New American Standard, it's translated as arrogant 9 times. Arrogant men, presumptuous, proud. Arrogant, that's interesting. So arrogant gives it a different flavor. If that's really the kind of meaning of this word, or if it simply is an inflection of the word. But you see that in New American Standard translators translated this word 9 times as arrogant. So it mostly was translated as arrogant or proud, and only once as presumptuous. That to me flavors it a little. So when I think of arrogance, that is a different thing than necessarily a premeditated sin. So if a presumptuous sin is an arrogant sin, meaning out of arrogance you're allowing yourself to do something that you know you shouldn't do, intentional, Ryan Davis. I think it's intentional, but it's also, he's being real specific. If it's an arrogant sin, I'm just trying to think through that. I'm trying to just think about that. Arrogance is when you think you deserve something or you're angry about something, and so you put yourself essentially above God in making a decision that's bad for you, doing a sinful act. So, I mean, in a very simplistic sense, you could just call it an intentional sin, but it's David is praying here. So the thing that I think is interesting, this is David, the one whom God loved, praying, please clean me from my secret sins, the things I do in private that I shouldn't do. Now, is he talking about Bathsheba? Is he talking about lust? Is he talking about things like that, secret sins? It sounds like it. Sounds like that might be what he's talking about. And then in this next verse, He's saying, well, help me also from arrogant sins where I'm being arrogant and I'm just being a horse's butt and I'm just putting myself in front of you. Please forgive me for that. He says, let them not have dominion over me. So he's admitting his struggle to not commit sins of arrogance, where it's just like he knows it's wrong, but he wants it, or he's, that's what this type of sin is. So to me, the key understanding here is that David himself was struggling with these things, and David was God's beloved. So I think in regards to practicality for us, we should understand that if we have sins that we struggle against, we work against, and we still fail from time to time, that even David, God's beloved, was struggling with that kind of thing as well, And he asked, please let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. So I hope that maybe adds some flavor to that discussion. But I guess in terms of presumptuous sin, I think that's the best I'm going to be able to do with it. Again, this is like my first exposure to really thinking about that hard and talking about it. But yeah, I feel like I get that. Now I will say this, in the case of a premeditated sin, like if you have a premeditated, like, I'm going to do this bad thing. I want to do it. I'm going to do it. And I don't care what God says kind of thing. If that's the attitude you have, then you probably have an issue with your I don't know, your fealty to God. That's probably a worse thing. Like, if your arrogance gets the better of you from time to time, you slip up, you screw up, you're a jerk, or you do things in secret sometimes, that's apparently what David here is talking about. So I don't know. I think it's just interesting to discuss that because it helps us understand what even people like David were dealing with, in their lives. I hope that helps. I hope that helps a little bit. Russell Shoot, what are you saying? The Christ fantasy ignores Jesus, saying, this is a wicked generation, seeking signs. The only sign is given is Jonah, believer murdered by a large number of believers. I don't have any idea what that means, Russell. You're welcome to post again, but if you get too far off track, you're going to go away. All right. Yeah, sure, Ryan. Thank you for asking the question. I hope that helps. All right, let's move to the next topic. Let's see here. What is our next? Okay, now we're getting into we're getting into the conspiracy land. I love it. Let's see. Space Force and Space National Guard. But no space? Okay, this is our title. Space Force and the Space National Guard, but no space? Question mark? All right. So MK Ryan came on real early because he couldn't stay on with us today. He had something he had to do, but he wanted to hear the answer. So MK, I hope you can catch back up to us and hear this answer. This is going to be a amalgamation of my opinion and my understanding about some things and where I sit on some things. So I'll have to just give you kind of my 2 cents, maybe 3 cents, and then you can take that and do whatever you want with it. So Space Force, it was formed under by Trump, obviously. And it was really, by the way, you need to understand that him doing that was a huge just power slap in the face to the 4 other branches, to the Air Force specifically, because the Air Force has typically been the ones in charge of the airspace and a lot of the intelligence and communications, as well as some of the Department of Navy. Okay, so the Space Force coming along and saying, by Trump's, institution, saying, we got all that. We got all that in the space, and we've got all the communications, the satellites, we got it all. That was a huge just power slap in the face. Just boom. And then the military is probably just reeling after that. So be aware of what Space Force is and was meant to be. It I think is actually more related to communications, intercepts, intelligence than it is anything. Okay. So then the Space National Guard, I don't know as much about the Space National Guard, but I have heard they were instituted, and there's that. I believe it would be part of the same type deal. Really just taking over communications, sky-based and what they call space-based, as well as probably some sky and space-based weapon systems, I would imagine. Although I haven't heard much about that. Okay, so again, I'm going off the information I do have, which I've heard. I'm not going to be giving you a lot of facts and articles in this segment here. But so then understanding what Space Force and Space National Guard is and why it was instituted. I believe that Trump and whoever is working with Trump, I call them white hats, oath keepers, they needed the intelligence. So the institution of Space Force and the gathering of intelligence, the taking over of intelligence, was critical and crucial and just magnificently big and amazing. So then MK Ryan's question specifically is about, like, how can there be a Space Force since there's no space, right? And of course, the idea of there not being any space or space not being a thing is from the flat Earth community, right? And I do believe in the flat Earth, by the way. That doesn't mean I, of course, subscribe to everything that any flat earther would say. So, like anybody, I have my own opinions on certain things. So, it's funny too. I wanted to mention this before I move forward to the space stuff. Of the branches, I even have some close contact to some friends that are in the traditional military branches. And what I have heard from them is that they, from the top down in those branches, they're essentially like making fun of Space Force. So the other branches make jokes about Space Force, talk them down, etc., blah, blah, blah. Which to me says Space Force is probably a good thing. To be perfectly frank. All right, so that being said, the whole idea about there being no space, of course, from the flat Earth cosmology, we believe from flat Earth ideas in the Bible that there is a firmament above the heavens, above the lower heavens, the Oranos, Greek sky, that there is a firmament that divides that from more spiritual realms, right? I mean, that's the only way we can really say it. I guess you say heaven, okay? So the firmament divides the sky, the Oranos, from the first level of heaven, okay? And as far as I understand from a number of texts I've read from the ancient times, that there's 7 levels of heaven. The highest, of course, 7, is where God's throne sits. However, so the understanding of that, the firmament and the flat earth, causes most people to say there's no space. There's no space, so how can there be a Space Force, right? Well, it's kind of a matter of semantics, okay? So what I believe is that this is what I currently believe about this, and it is based on some theory, some speculation, but of course I try to be very, you know me, I'm quite metered in what I take as my view, and I try to base it on all available evidence, okay? We do have things, we have things up there, okay? We have things up there. That's the way I can say it. For instance, satellites. right? We have and use satellites. Now, are satellites exactly what they explain them to be? I do not believe that satellites are exactly what they explain them to be. So what I have seen, and I've heard this, when Rob Skiba was originally trying to do his high altitude weather balloon tests with video and cameras. I don't know if you guys ever saw that stuff, but I have it recorded. I have the recording where Rob Skiba and his buddies are sitting around talking, and they were talking about how they couldn't buy any weather balloons because the contractors that were selling weather balloons said they were all bought up. That there was a real lack of weather balloons because, and they said it was military groups that were buying all the weather balloons, along with Google. So you have to understand that they have multiple ways of putting things in the sky. I've seen, of course, and I have videos of them launching from Antarctica, launching balloon-based satellites, okay? My opinion is that that is about the only kind of satellite that is launched. I don't believe we orbit satellites. I do not believe that is true. I believe that all the satellites we have are, as far as I know, balloon-based. They are weather balloons. They make weather balloons so tough and strong that they will stay up there for months and months at a time. And I also have videos and photos and stuff of people finding crashed satellites with balloons attached to them all over the world. So the reality is, and you might ask yourself, well, how come when I get a satellite dish for DirecTV or what's the other one? Whatever, I can't remember the other satellite company. Why do I have to point the dish in a certain place and it never moves? Like, it seems like there's something up there staying still. Yes, because I don't know if you know this, but as you go higher in the atmosphere, in the sky, the higher you go, the thinner the air is, and the less downward pull really that there is on things. It's thinner, there's less density. So it's, I believe, physics-wise, easier to keep balloons up for a super, super long time. A lot longer than like when you get a balloon and you let it go in the air and it comes down 15 minutes later. It's different than that. So the upper levels of the atmosphere are very thin, and I believe they can do things up there that we can't do closer to the land, so to speak. So that being said, this is what I believe Space Force is mostly about. It's about managing the intel that's going through the satellites, managing the launching and protection of the satellites, specifically the ones around, that America owns, and using those here in America and around the world, supposedly to protect America. But of course, right now I have a feeling that it's being used for a few different purposes, including monitoring communications of what I call the black hats, the bad guys, so to speak. So I believe that that's kind of where we are right now, and that's why there's a Space Force, even though I don't believe that we are traveling through space with spaceships, or even, as some of the conspiratorialists say, with space fleets. I believe that if there's anything in regards to those kinds of things, space fleets, space captains, that guy Gary McKinnon found that list when he hacked into NASA, and this was a long time ago. Was that in the 90s? Gary McKinnon, he hacked in and he found a list of space-based commanders for NASA or something like that, or the military. I can't remember exactly what it was. If that exists, now I do know there's also portal programs. That I do believe there's probably portal programs in the darkest recesses of our government. portal programs that do something and open up something and people go somewhere, okay? I've seen too many different people come out and say that that's a thing to just totally dismiss it. It could be a farce, but I have a feeling that there's something to it. And I think it also has something to do with things like Project Looking Glass and the technologies that play there. Technologies that were ancient and have been now refined and revised by the darkest sections of our militaries. And it's really a tragedy that they think that this is just okay. Like, yay, we're going to do this. I have disdain for the people that do this stuff. I have disdain for my own government for doing this stuff. And I have at least as much or more disdain for them because they lie to us and don't tell us about it, and they use our money for it. And I will do everything in my power to expose them and to help society bring them down and take them apart and get rid of them. And I believe that's actually part of what Space Force is all about. Whether you like it or not, you know, some of the reality is that this stuff exists and it has to be managed by somebody. And if we don't have good people managing it, then bad people are going to use it against us. So anyway, let me see what's being said. I see some people talking about Russell. I haven't seen him post, but except for that first time. Has he done anything else? Because I really think Russell is... I don't even see him anymore. I can't see his messages. Here it is. Russell, shoot. Russell Shoot says, nothing fails like prayers in a children's hospital or indoctrinating children. It's criminal. Russell Shoot, you seem to be confused. Yeah, you're confused, Russell. Since, Russell, you came to just argue with people, you're now off the channel. Sorry. That's what I'm talking about being civil. Like, you know, you're not participating. You're not doing anything helpful. Are you paid to do what you do? I don't understand. Like, do you get off on it? Just coming in here and being in shit to us? I don't understand it. Like, are you paid for that? If you're paid, go find a new job because you're a loser. Anyway, I don't get it. I don't get people like that. All right. All right. I think that covers Space Force and the whole no space thing. Like, I will say this too about the no space thing. Like, what can we even imagine is beyond the firmament? Like, I don't know what heaven looks like when, according to the Bible, what we're looking at when we see stars and we see planets is we're looking at luminaries that are either affixed in or close to the firmament. Okay. And so the idea that there's who knows what is beyond the firmament as far as we're told in the writings that I've read about the levels of heaven and what's there, you know, we know some things about heaven, but in general, we have no idea what that looks like. Okay, so if we could get through the firmament, would there be space? Would there be something that looks like space? I have no idea even what to say to that. Maybe heaven, parts of heaven look kind of like space. I don't know. How would I know? But anyway, just thought I'd say that because I do wonder about that. When we just go off and blanket say there's no space, I don't know. What are we looking at up there? If that's what we call space, then there is space, you know, but we do have to understand the cosmology that's at play. The firmament is in place. And, you know, what is beyond that? What does God's spiritual realm look like? I can't even imagine, but I'm excited to find out. So maybe that helps. All right, let's move forward. We got a lot to get to. Kuza, you ask, is there a way to legally explore the poles? Well, let's say North and South Pole. North or South Pole. Kuza, this is one like I'm not gonna probably spend a ton of time. I'm not gonna look stuff up on this one, but Kuza, as far as what I understand, you can legally go to a place they call the North or South Pole. Now the North is a good question. Can you go to the North Pole? I don't know that I've ever heard of people going to the North Pole, but I think that has happened. There's been explorers that have gone up to the North Pole. But of course, on like a flat Earth model, for instance, that wouldn't be as problematic as going to the South Pole, would it? I do know that there is a place that people can go to in Antarctica that is called the South Pole. Is that really the South Pole? How would anyone know? No one that has ever been to that spot and touched the little globe, reflective globe they've got there, nobody who has ever done that has ever been able to verify that that's actually the South Pole on a globe. So, yes, as far as I understand, you can, in a recreational sense, I guess, visit Antarctica. I don't know about visiting the South Pole. I'm not sure if that's one of those kind of protected things where you got to be a certain group or you got to be with a certain group. I think, though, that I have seen people do little expeditions down to the South Pole, this pole in the ground that has a spherical mirror on it. I think I've seen people that are able to do that. But my contention is that that's not really a pole at all. It's a literal pole in the ground. Someone stuck there so that they could divert people away from what is down in Antarctica. So they could take them to that spot instead of letting them hit either some kind of barrier because of the firmament or an ice wall, or see some weird structure that was built by some group of people that are very ancient, which all those things, those types of things have been testified about. Or even the stations that are seemingly military or quasi-military communications bases with, what do they have buried in the ice in a cubic formation for about 2 kilometers squared, according to the most recent whistleblower, is an ion-emitting apparatus that can be used to start earthquakes around the world and cause weather patterns. So to me, they're not going to let people go see those things unless they have clearances, which apparently the people that have clearances are now starting to speak up about those things and say that it's not what they're telling you. You know, those things are not what they're telling you. So to me, the whole thing about the South Pole is a farce. As far as whether you can explore Antarctica, why don't you try? I mean, try it. I don't have the money to try to get on an airplane flight down there or waste my time with that. I know if there's something, let's put it this way. Let's just say it this way. Let's be perfectly honest. If there's something down there that they don't want us to see, they're not going to let us see it, right? So there's no amount of traveling down there on a plane, on any commercial flight you can get. There's no amount of that is going to prove anything to you one way or another. There's none of that. You cannot on your own prove it because they will not let you get near those things that are important to them keeping secret. Let's just leave it at that. So nobody's going to go down there and prove anything unless we have more and more whistleblowers come out, or our government and the evil agencies within our government get taken down and changed, or if this kind of thing happens. So I think that is all I can say about it. They're just not going to allow people to see what's down there. Now you guys are going to town in the comments. Let me try to catch up here a little bit. Okay, Kelsey, you say your mom lives in a town right outside of where the North Pole is in Alaska. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think the North Pole is more traversed. Like, I think people know about it and can go there. I don't think there's any problem with the North Pole necessarily. But there is some interesting information about the North Pole because According to some ancient maps, as most of you probably know, there is a mountain up there that seems to be covered in ice right now, and a fissure where out water comes from underground and essentially feeds the oceans in a way and causes a lot of the currents that are in the oceans. I can't remember. I think in some cases in ancient texts it's called Mount Meru or something like that. I can't fully remember all of it. Joyful One, you say Richard Byrd was a film producer and made you rethink everything he said. Interesting. You discovered that Richard Byrd was a film producer. That is interesting. I have some Richard Byrd's material, and especially the journal. The journal to me seems suspicious at best. The journal seems problematic. It's a little too perfect and far-fetched. You know what I mean? That to me is suspect. But Byrd was an amazing person with a lot of interesting, weird things going on around him. So yeah, he knew a lot more than probably we realize he knew. Let's see. Red Raven, I think you're sort of right there. You say they have to keep it secret because it will testify to God and his truths. I think that's true. I think there's something, whatever's down there, I think it would break apart some of the mysteries that beset us. Some of the lies would be shattered if we knew what was all down there. All right. Jackie Blue, you mentioned Madeline on the Leaving Babylon channel. She did a great job exploring the north as possibly being where Mount Zion is. Yeah, I've heard that theory. I've heard that theory a lot. All right. Let's move to the next one. Next conspiracy theory topic. I love these. This is great. And that is Deborah Hicks. You asked about the Mandela effect and CERN. Yeah, it's funny because the channel, Bible Scribe channel, is so focused on Bible stuff. I don't have a lot of this material like ready to go. I do have material on it, but I don't want to waste you guys' time by like sifting through it right now. It's not probably as well organized as my Bible stuff. So I do know it though, so I can talk to it. But anyway, so the Mandela effect. You asked about Deborah and CERN, and let's be very, I'm always very honest about this stuff. I think I want you guys to be honest with me about it. Has anyone ever been able to directly, with evidence, tie anything like the Mandela effect to CERN? The answer to that question, in case you're wondering, is no. So that's a speculation. It's total opinion that people have out there, that they see CERN and it's weird. They don't understand what it's doing. There's been some weird, sketchy things said about it. And then the Mandela effect is something that someone came up with over here, and someone combined the two and said, yeah, it's because of CERN that the Mandela effect. And Anthony Patch is probably the one who did most of this. I don't know if you know that guy, Anthony Patch. He goes all over the place talking about CERN and portals and demons and Mandela effect. And I can't listen to the guy because I don't like what he says. And I think a lot of what he says is just fluff. He says a lot of words and he talks really fast. And I'm a technical person. I know the words he's talking about. I know what he's talking about. And some of it just doesn't wash. It doesn't make sense. So I get a feeling from guys like Anthony Patch that they are false. I don't know to what level. Is he just a guy out trying to make a name on YouTube so he gets $150 a month from, monetized videos? I don't know. I don't know what Anthony Patch's, agenda is, but it could be that, or it could be that he's literally a shill and he's pushing things just to get people confused and off track. And the CIA does that stuff all the time. So again, I want to be honest. There's nothing that we know of that ties CERN to anything like the Mandela effect. There's absolutely nothing that I know of that's credible. So then let's just talk about the Mandela effect. Now, I have a friend that I've talked with recently about this quite a bit, and he's real interested in it, and he kind of talks to me about it and shares ideas like, what about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I don't mind talking about it, so that's no problem at all. But I'm just honest with those things, like like, do you remember the Bible used to say the lion and the lamb, when it really doesn't? It says the lion and the wolf and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, I remember the lion and the lamb. And I told this guy, as I'm talking about these things, I was like, well, I remember the lion and the lamb, and I know exactly why I said lion and lamb. And it's because when I was a kid, I carpooled with a lady who played Carmen, the Christian singer Carmen's music all the time. And there was this one song she listened to over and over again. It was like the lion and the lamb, blah, 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 the great I am. And so Carmen's song was stuck in my head from a young age. And I always then thought that the Bible said lion and the lamb. But the Bible never did. I believe that in that case, that was not the Mandela effect. It was because we have this apparatus in our culture where we have songs coming at us, videos coming at us, this coming at us. And what happens is those ideas lodge in our head and we associate them with, for instance, the Bible. And then we think that the Bible always said that, but it never did. And it's because, for instance, in my case, the song was what said that. So I'll be perfectly honest with you guys about Mandela effect. I think that most of Mandela effect issues are explained by this explanation, that it's because of the way that we consume information and media, that it's not the Bible that's changed, but our perception changed based on something else we saw, and that we attributed it to the Bible because that's the way our brain works. If you've studied human cognition, the way that we arrive at information in our heads it's kind of like what the AI people call a neural network. I mean, that's what neurons essentially are said to do. They transmit information, and the way they do it is by associating things together. So the way we learn is we associate ideas together. So if I do read something in the Bible, then I see a video that has something similar, and I see or I hear a music that has something similar, I associate those things, even subconsciously. It's called a neural network. And so what happens over time is you sometimes forget where the idea came from. Was it from the video, or was it from the music, or was it from this person that talked to you, or was it from the Bible itself? And so, like the Berenstain Bears book, is it really that the Berenstain Bears books changed? Or is it that maybe in grade school you had a teacher that wrote Berenstain Bear book, page 1, read for homework, and she spelled Berenstain wrong, and it was something that stuck in your head because you were in that class every day, and she left it up on the board for a whole month? How are you ever going to know? It's associative understanding, it's associative information that your brain's trying to fit together so that you can retain knowledge. So I really think, to me, that the Mandela effect, I know, people spend a lot of time on it, and I don't blame you. It's interesting to a point. For me, I don't think it's actually a thing. I think it might be a tool to confuse and distract. But that's just my opinion. Yeah, I mean, a few of you don't agree with me at all. I agree. I see. I mean, Flat Bob, you will die on the hill. It was Berenstein, not Berenstain. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Let's say it's true. Okay, let's go the other direction. Let's say it's 100% true there's two problems with that for me. I can't prove it, and I can't do anything about it. Okay, so to me, it's useless to waste my time on it. But that's just me. I'm very kind of like brass tacks, practical person. Yeah, I just don't find any value there. So I guess that's where I just feel like it's yeah. See, there's a variety of opinions on even the chat. I mean, there's a variety of opinions. So just be aware of that. If it's interesting to you, then, search it out. Find real evidence for it, though. Make sure you got the real receipts. If you've got a picture of and you can verify that you have a real picture of a Berenstein book versus a Berenstain book, then, I don't know, find it and make a YouTube video about it and post it all over the internet. I don't know what to say. But I'll just say this, I don't appreciate videos where guys are just going through the Bible saying, see this verse? Didn't you remember it this way? And I mean, that to me it's not even good. It's not even good evidence. It's not even close. It's just, so I remembered it the wrong way, or I was taught the wrong way because maybe Lifeway ran a curriculum during the 20-something years that I was in church, and they ran that curriculum every year for those 20 years, and maybe I saw it like 500 times, whereas I only saw it in the Bible once. So now you're taking me back to the Bible and saying I remembered it wrong? I don't think that's honest. I don't think it's good evidence, and I don't want to spend my time on that. So that's just me. So I guess all I can say is that you're probably never going to see a Mandela effect video on the Bible Scribe channel, except this one maybe, when you guys ask me about it. That's just me. Sorry. I would love to see real hard evidence, okay? It would be great if someone at CERN, like a real whistleblower, and I don't even know now if there is a real whistleblower at CERN, okay? It'd be hard to verify this, but if there was some real thing that came out, real person saying, yes, here's the documentation. This is the project at CERN where we were trying to manipulate history with different stuff, and we were able to do it in certain cases, and small things, we were able to change different things. And we used the Bible because it was such a well-known thing, and we wanted to see if we could have that kind of an effect on such a well-known, documented piece of literature. Now, if I had evidence, something like that, that would at least be something. I'm not saying I would 100% believe it, but at least that would be something, right? That would be a whistleblower with a document they say is real, and it shows the project to change the Bible. But we don't have any of that. So at this point, I guess that's what I'm saying. I can't study it other than just listening to a bunch of people talk about it. So anyway, all right. All right, let's just move forward. I think Denise Hamilton, you asked about changes or odd words in the Bible. Let's look up a couple of these while we're just on this. I think it may have to do with the same subject. So let's see if Luke 19:27. Let me share my screen. It's Luke 19:27. Give us anything. Luke 19:27. Okay, but those mine enemies which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me. I don't know. That may not have anything to do with what we're talking about. Maybe this from Denise was just a separate discussion about difficult things in the Bible. 2 Kings 18:27. I think I'm gonna hold this. This one is like kind of gonna be all over the place if I go over it. This is different than Mandela effect, so let's not do that. Let's not do that today. Let me look at this one, Denise Hamilton. If you're on, what I'll do is I'll look at these verses since they're all kind of different. Let me do that, and I will look at them, and if I can bring that forward in another in another live stream, I'll do that once I've kind of seen where all these verses sit and what they're about. If you don't mind, they're just so, it seems to be they're so different that it's just going to be all over the place. So let's move forward then to some of the prophecy stuff. And we are getting a little on in time, so I'm going to try to be a little quicker with some of this prophecy stuff now. So let me hide the screen and get one of these topics up here. I think the first question will be from Tanya, and that is, why do we need a new heaven and new earth? Why do we need a new heaven and a new earth? It's a good question. All right. So there's probably a number of reasons, Tanya, that we need a new heaven and a new earth. And you ask, why won't we just be going to heaven? What's the new earth for? Well, the way that the Great White Throne judgment texts talk about it is that heaven in a way comes down to earth after the Great White Throne judgment. And they are merged. There's then no difference, really, no separation. It says the firmaments will dissolve. There's no separation between heaven and earth any longer. So that is why, and okay, there's so many things running through my head. We have prophecies, even in the Old Testament, about God resting with man, God existing or living with man, Jesus living with mankind. So those things also tend to seem like a reference to this in the end when God and man live together, okay? And how is he going to do that? Well, according to the Great White Throne texts, there's a new heaven. The earth is remade. Now, there's a reason for that too. The earth is fixed, so to speak. It's broken right now, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. The earth is fixed or cleansed, and then the barriers between earth and heaven are dissolved, and then God lives with man. So that's the why God wants that. He wants man to all live with him together in harmony, just as he intended originally. Now, if you remember too, originally when God created, or Christ created the earth, it was pure, it was good. You remember the Garden of Eden was able to reside here on earth, and there was no problems until something happened. What happened? If you remember, if anyone remembers, what happened that spoiled the earth? What happened that spoiled the earth? Well, sin in a way ain't buying it, and precarious, the fall-ish, yes. But there was something specific talked about in the Bible and in other texts about the spoiling of the earth, and that it drank the blood of Seth, or of Abel, as Cain slew him. Do you remember about this? Cain slew Abel, and the blood of Abel was then absorbed into the earth. It was murder, Flat Bob. You got it. Murder. And I believe in some regard, like I'm trying to find the verses right now. Trying to find the verses. Curse. Yes. Genesis 4:11. Here it is. Let me show you. Genesis 4:11. And the Lord said to Cain, "Where is Abel thy brother?" And he said, "I know not. Am I my brother's keeper?" And he said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which has opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto you strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. So this is the curse against the ground. Do you see this? It's huge. Yes, and ain't buying it. You say your mind remembered the ground crying out. Yes. Those things are real and palpable, and it is a curse against the earth. It's the corruption of the earth. Just think of all the blood of mankind slain on earth since this time. And if I'm not mistaken, when Noah's flood occurred, it says that the earth was cleansed at that time. Okay, and so that was one way in which God tried to cleanse that out of the earth. The time before the flood, with the Nephilim running around and all this other stuff, was a crazy time of murder, cannibalism, all this blood being spilt upon the earth. The earth was never meant for that, okay? It was never meant even for humanity to live in flesh on the earth, right? That's because of the fall of man. Now we are all flesh like this. We lost our original glory. So man was never meant to live here. And then the murder that man started to commit on the earth, where he's spilling the blood of humans on the earth, it is a corruption of the earth. So in the answer to your question, Tanya, is that somehow God had to rectify the situation with the earth. It is spoiled. It is corrupted. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, it talks about that it is corruption, that that heaven cannot inherit corruption, and so that's why we can't go there in our flesh. That's why the earth and heaven cannot connect until God does something. And what is the something? He's going to have to fix the earth. And he did it, as we see in ancient writings, that it was known and prophesied. Josephus even tells us this, that at one time the Jews knew, and because of the writings and the prophecies, that God would at one time cleanse the earth by water, which he did with Noah, and at one time he would cleanse the earth with fire, and which he has not done yet, and he will do in the future, to cleanse the earth of this horrible, the horror of blood and murder on the earth. And he will then be able to reunite himself and heaven, the holy things, with the profane of earth. Okay, he's going to have to clear the earth off to do it. He's going to have to get rid of all this mess. So that, Tanya, is why he has to do that. We have to have a new heaven and a new earth. It's something that, we just went over some things that I don't know many people talk about much. I don't guess many biblical scholars either know or talk about this, and I don't know why that is. Because it's all there. It's all there in the scriptures, and it's also in non-biblical texts. Okay, it's in both. But it would be a great study for me to put that information together into a video on the cursing of the earth and how that works and all that. So yeah, no, you're welcome, Tanya. Thank you for asking the question. Yeah, so the new earth is really for us to live with God. As far as, again, those texts that I studied in that Great White Throne video say, now we understand a little bit more about the New Jerusalem coming down to earth, the Holy Jerusalem. The Holy Jerusalem, by the way, is in heaven, and it's been talked about in the Old Testament time and again. And so what he will be able to do in the end is bring that down to earth after it's cleansed, and then unite everyone together. And we will be in new bodies. We will be in bodies like unto our Savior, so to speak. Our bodies will be reconstituted, put back together in a new way, and it will be amazing. It'll be amazing. I wish, there's so much to it that's just so hard to explain it all at once. That's the biggest problem, and it's like I somehow wish I could explain or communicate it better or more at once. It's just so much. It's so hard. It's so much. Oh well. All right. So I think I'll leave that one now and move on, because we got still a couple left here. And Marnie73, you from the Wales, you asked me about the difference between reincarnation and resurrection. So I will discuss that briefly, and then I think I hate it, but I may have to close it up for today. Francisco Horta and Deborah Hicks, you had another topic. You guys, I'm just going to have to move them, and we'll have to try to do them another time. I just don't like going super long on these things. And so, Francisco, your question on Revelation 9:3, if you can remember and bring that back next time, or maybe I'll take note of it. Maybe I can just do that next time. And then Deborah Hicks, you asked about the rest of the dead after the millennial kingdom. We've talked about some of that stuff before, but I think we can move that stuff on to another time. All right. Yeah, well, thank you, Francisco, for being understanding. I appreciate that. All right, so Marnie 73 about the difference between reincarnation and resurrection. So the difference is, I'll just kind of, from a very logistical explanation, a plain explanation of the differences. So reincarnation, as I understand it, and you may know more about this than me, because I don't know exactly what all the New Age thinkers talk about when they talk about reincarnation. But the idea of reincarnation has to do with the soul or spirit of a person being put into a body for a life, for this life. And then after that life, after the physical body dies, that spirit being put into another body to then live another life. And then after that life, so on and so on. Many people who hold the idea of reincarnation also say that, of course, each life, you're either going to move into a higher form of existence or a lower form of existence based on how you lived the life that you lived. So they would say, well, if you came as just a person, a man, and then you lived a wonderfully good life, depending on how good a life you lived, most people who believe in reincarnation would say you might actually not reincarnate again, but you would move on to another level of existence called nirvana, where you then are like the Buddha. You are like an ascended master. And then I guess when you're an ascended master, you are ethereal, spirit only, and you can float around helping other people achieve the same. I guess that's what you do. I don't know all of the detail of that. So, but if you live a bad life as a man or a woman, you might be reincarnated as something worse, either a more deplorable human being or a poor human being, destitute, or even an animal or a bug, depending on how bad you were in that life. That is the way I understand the kind of modern ideas around reincarnation. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, some Hindus believe in that kind of thing as well. Indian Hindus, I think that they keep part of that, some of it, maybe not all, but it's similar to that in a lot of ways. So that, I think, is the explanation of reincarnation. So when we talk about resurrection, it's very different in that the way that the Bible and everything explains resurrection is especially based on the nature of the soul or spirit, that your spirit is created by God. Okay, it has a beginning. Your spirit is breathed out of God's mouth. That is the way that the old ancient texts talk about God creating spirits, both human and angelic, and all the spirits of the beings that God creates. He breathes them out of his mouth. He forms every spirit. In many texts, he's called the Father of Hosts because he creates spirits. So in that conception, the Judaistic Christian conception, God creates your spirit. Angels are responsible. There are angels that have the tasks of putting your spirit into a gestating body when there's a baby growing in the womb. And I'm not going to remember the exact time frame, but there is a time frame in ancient Jewish texts about when the spirit is actually implanted into the fetus as it grows. It raises an interesting question for abortion, but I'm not going to go there today. I don't want to talk about that. I of course side against abortion completely. I just think there's no reason for abortion, and it's a waste of our efforts and time, and it's wrong in most cases. Anyway, So there are angels with the responsibility of putting the spirits that God breathes into a human body at a certain time during gestation. Then, of course, you grow as a baby, you live your life, you have your life. There is only one incarnate life for a human. Only one baby to death life that you will live. So the resurrection is what's talked about in the scriptures as when your spirit is taken up out of Hades. Okay, so Hades is the normal destination for a human spirit after death, and it is all because of the fall that happens. We go to corruption after death because of the way Adam screwed up, and we all have to live with it now. And so the resurrection is taking your soul out of Hades, out of hell, so to speak, and then reconstituting your body from what's in the earth and giving you a new body, a refashioned body that's glorious, and then you going to heaven. Okay, that is what is understood as resurrection. So I hope that shows you the difference. There's no leeway in Christianity for multiple lives like reincarnation talks about. There's no sense in which that makes sense. It doesn't fit with any of the doctrines or teachings of anyone in Christianity ever, or Judaism. There are some Kabbalists that probably have skewed Judaism into believing some reincarnation stuff and using that as a concept they agree with. So there's no telling what some of the modern Jews may believe about that. And then there are Gnostics who do also believe in reincarnation, and they have that as a part of their belief system. But Christianity never has allowed for any kind of reincarnation. So trying to think... Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about that. I think there's some people that I've seen claim that there are Christian texts that talk about reincarnation. But the problem is those are actually Gnostic texts. They're not Christian texts. So they are wrong in that. And it's Gnostic belief. They have all sorts of crazy beliefs. So, yeah, I believe that's the best I can do. So I don't know, Marnie, if you're still on, but if there's anything else I can say about that will help you, let me know. But there's a marked difference. There is no second or third life for a human. And what we do in this life does matter as far as our eternal destination. We have to acknowledge Jesus Christ as the Son of God. I think there are possibly exceptions to people that don't know who Christ is, but God knows their heart. But that's key, understanding who Christ is and believing in him and believing in his Father, God. And then also living a life that proves that you do believe those things. I mean, it is imperative that we do good, that we treat others as equals under God, and that we help other people, that we build the kingdom here on earth by helping people understand who God is and who his Son is. So all those things to say, yeah, we have a very important job during this short life, and we only get one. So we can screw it up. We can screw it up, and that will be bad for those who do. So I hope that helps you, Marnie, if you're still on. But if not, I hope you do get to catch this so you can see the answer or hear the answer. All right. Any other final comments, guys? Because I think we're about to head out today. Thank you guys so much for your attention and your participation in the chat. Flat Bob, don't forget your question. I will. I've got your question down. I got your question. 2 Samuel 23:1 and 1 Chronicles 24:1. Who tempted David? Yes. Okay, that's a great question. Actually, we will do that. I think I've talked about it before, but we can do that. Yes, we will do it. Thank you, Flat Bob. All right. Excellent. Guys, thank you so much again. Y'all have a great Sunday, a great week. Please reach out to me if you want to. My email is freely available.
Be on the lookout. I have a couple videos coming. I think the next 2 videos that are coming are the new Nazi propaganda video and the Katy Perry video. So those are the 2 that'll be coming soon. It's been a pleasure, and I just will pray for you guys this week, and thank you so much. Laura Masood, it's good to see you. I didn't see you there. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.